This is Nick with logosbynick.com, and in today's tutorial I'll be demonstrating how you can create this logo design using Inkscape. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Inkscape and get started here. By the way, if you'd like to know how you can make Inkscape appear dark and with these custom icons, a link to that information will be in the description of the video. So the first thing we want to do is set up our page so that we're all working on the same page here. We'll go to View, make sure you have Custom selected, and we're going to zoom in at 1:1. And then we'll go to File, Document Properties, and we're going to make sure the display units is set to px for pixels. And for the background, I'm just going to turn off that checkbox. Actually, no, wrong one. I'm going to turn off border, show page border. I'm going to turn that off to get rid of that page border. And then we can close out of that. And what we want to do now is click on the Align and Distribute menu with this button here. Align and Distribute Objects, we want that open. We're going to want Last Selected chosen from this drop down. And then we'll open up the Edit Objects, Colors, Gradients, and Stroke menu with that button there. So the first thing we're going to do is draw a circle. So we'll go to the Circles and Ellipses tool, and I'm going to hold Control and Shift on the keyboard and click and drag to create a perfectly round circle like that. And I'm going to convert that to a path by going to Path, Object to Path. And I'm going to take the opacity of that and bring that down about in half. It doesn't have to be exactly in half, just somewhere roughly in half should be good. And I want to give that an outline now, otherwise known as a stroke. By doing that, to do that, I'm going to hold Shift and click on the color red, and it's going to put an outline around the black circle. Although your outline may be bigger or smaller, depending on the size you last used previously. We're going to adjust the size of that in just a second. First, what we want to do is turn off the fill color. We're going to get rid of the black area. So I'm going to come over here and just click on the X over here in the bottom left, and it's going to get rid of the black fill area. And then we'll come over to the Stroke Style tab. And for the stroke width, I'm going to set this to px for pixels. And you see here on my screen, I have it set to 30. Yours may look different at 30 because you may be using a different screen resolution than me. I'm using a fairly high resolution monitor here, so this is going to look different for you probably. So I'm just going to hold up on this arrow to make it thicker. We want it to be about that thick right there relative to its size. I don't have a specific number to give you. With my monitor, it's about a 50 pixel stroke like that, and that should be pretty good. It doesn't have to be exactly that size, just somewhere in that ballpark. Maybe even a little thinner. Let me change that to 45. That's better. And what I want to do now is I want to grab the Select tool, and I want to duplicate this by right-clicking it and going to Duplicate. And I want to make this blue, so I'm going to hold Shift on the keyboard and click on the color blue to make that stroke blue. And I want to make this a much smaller size, so I'm going to come over here to the width. I'm going to drop this down to like 10, see how that looks. That's pretty good. Maybe even 7. This is going to be like the outside border of the design here. Like I'll show you here, this outside design. That's what we're constructing right now. So once we've done that, we can click and drag over all of it, both of those, and go to Path, Stroke to Path. And then click off of it to deselect everything. And now we want to click on just the red object right here. And make sure you have the red one selected. And you could do that by looking down here in the bottom left corner of your screen to see the color. You'll see this little red stripe. If you have the blue one selected, it'll be blue. So we want the red one. And what we're going to do now is go to Path, Break Apart. And that's going to break that up into 2 objects based on its size. And what we could do is click off of that to deselect everything. I want to take this red circle and make that black. And then I want to right click that and go to Duplicate, and then hold Shift and click on the red circle in the background, and with them both selected we'll go to Path, Difference. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this black circle, click on that, and then hold Control and Shift and grab one of these corner arrows and just scale it in about that much, and that should be pretty good like that. So what I'll do now is I'll take the blue, this blue ring, click on that, hold Shift, click on the red ring, and with them both selected, go to Path, Difference. And what I'm going to do now is we're going to create these little tabs here with the star inside of it. So to do that, I'm going to grab the Squares and Rectangles tool, and I'm just going to click and drag up here, create a little rectangle going into the object like that. I'm going to get rid of that blue outline by holding Shift and clicking the X. And I want to make this object blue, just so we could differentiate it up against the blue and the black other objects. And let me take this, I'm going to click on that, hold Shift, click on the black circle, and make sure we have it centered on the vertical axis by clicking the button that says Center on Vertical Axis. And again, we'll go to Path, Object to Path, and then click off of that to deselect everything. And what I want to do now is take this blue object right here and go to the Edit Paths by Nodes tool and click and drag over those bottom two nodes right there to have them both selected. And we're going to click this button right here that says Insert New Node into Selected Segments. And that's going to put another node in there. Let me zoom in to show you. I'm going to hold Control and roll up on the mouse wheel to zoom in. Or you could press plus and minus to zoom in and out on the keyboard. So I'm going to click on just this center node right here. I'm going to click on that and then hold Control and just click and drag that up about that much. And I'll zoom back out to 100% by pressing 1 on the keyboard. And what I want to do now is, let's go back to the Select tool. I want to right click that and go to Duplicate. And I want to make that green. And then I want to give this a green outline by holding Shift and clicking on the color green. Oops, I clicked on the wrong shade. And I'm going to zoom in again to show you. We want this to be a little bigger than the shape beneath it. So I'm going to come over here to the Stroke Style tab again. I'm going to make this a little thicker. I'm going to try out maybe 12, see how that looks. Maybe a little thicker, 15. And that should be pretty good. Once we have it at a decent thickness like that, we can go ahead and go to Path, Stroke to Path, Path, Break Apart, and then Path Union. And I'm going to lower that one step with the button that says Lower Selection one step, so it goes beneath the blue object. I'll press 1 on the keyboard to zoom back out to 100%. And I'm going to hold Shift and click on the blue object so we have them both selected. And I want to group them both together with this button here, Group Selected Objects. And then I'm just going to hold Control and just move this up a little bit. We don't want that too far into the graphic. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to duplicate this by right-clicking it and going to Duplicate. And I'll flip it vertically by clicking the button up here that says Flip Selected Objects Vertically. And then hold Control and click and drag this down to about there. And then we can hold Shift and click on the other one so we have them both selected. And then we can group them both together. And then hold Shift, click on the black circle. And then come over to the Align and Distribute panel and click the button that says Center on Horizontal Axis. And that's just going to make sure that this is lined up nicely with the rest of the graphic here. I'll show you an example. If you have it where it's not perfectly aligned, it just aligns it up nicely like that. So that's why we do that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ungroup it by clicking the button that says Ungroup. And then I'm going to click that one more time, Ungroup, so we ungroup everything. And then click off of it to deselect everything. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click this red ring. And then I'm going to right click it and go to Duplicate. And then I'll go to Path, Break Apart, Path, Union. And then I want to make this one, I just want to make this yellow now so we can differentiate it so you can see what I'm doing here. I want to duplicate this one more time by right clicking it and going to Duplicate. So we have 2 copies of that yellow circle. And with this one selected, I'm going to hold Shift and click on this blue tab up here and go to Path, Intersection. And then I'll click on this other yellow circle, hold Shift, click on the other blue tab and go to Path, Intersection. And then I want to take the black circle and I want to hold Shift and click on the red rings and unify them both together by going to Path, Union. And then I want to hold Shift and click on the green tab up here so we have them both selected and go to Path, Difference. And again, hold Shift, click the green tab, go to Path, Difference. And we have the structure of the shape. It's pretty much set now. We just got to add a few more touches. We got to add the stars in there, then we got to add this makeshift banner within the negative space. So let's do the stars next. I'm going to come over here for the stars, Create Stars and Polygons tool. And up here from this toolbar, we want stars, the star button selected. We want the corners to be set at 5, spoke ratio at 0.375, and rounded and randomized both set to 0. And then I'm just going to hold Control and Shift and click and drag to create a star like that. And I want to get rid of that green outline by holding Shift and clicking the X. And I just want to rotate this around until it's sitting upright. So I'll grab the Select and Transform, the Select tool, and click on that a second time so we get the rotation handles. And grab one of the corner arrows and just rotate it around until it's sitting upright. And this is not going to be sitting exactly precise. You get a good idea of where it sits by looking at the 2 bottom corners here. Like if you notice, there's some white space between the tip right here and the dotted line. So I can rotate that around a little more. Oops, the other way. It doesn't have to be exact, you can just eyeball it and that's pretty good. And again, to zoom in and out, just rolling up and down the mouse wheel, holding control and rolling up and down the mouse wheel. And I want to take that and click on it again to get back to the scaling handles. Hold control and shift and scale it down. I just want to put this over here. Maybe I'll make that a little bigger. Then I want to hold shift and click on the blue tab, and center that on the vertical axis. Click off of it to deselect. And to move the page around, I'm just pressing down the mouse wheel and moving the mouse. So that's how you can do that. Or there should be scroll bars on the top and right, I mean on the bottom and the right side of your page. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take this star, click on that, right click it and go to duplicate, flip it vertically, hold control, move it down here, and then hold shift and click on the other star and group them together with the group selected objects button, and then hold shift and click on the red object and just make sure it's centered on the horizontal axis. And then we can ungroup it and click off of it to click off of the graphic to deselect everything. So what I'll do now is I'll take this yellow star, hold shift, click on the blue tab, and go to path difference, and then do the same thing down here. Click on this yellow star, hold shift, click on the blue tab, and go to path difference. And now we can unify this all together by clicking and dragging over all of it and going to path union. Then I'm just going to hold control and shift and scale this down a little bit. I'll make this dark gray, maybe 90%. Bring the opacity up to 100%. I'm just going to put this off to the side because now we're going to create the banner that's going to punch a hole through that shape right there. So to do that, we're going to grab the squares and rectangles tool and click and drag to create a nice long rectangle like that. That's a pretty good size. We're going to convert that to a path by going to path, object to path. And I want to make this red and bring the opacity down in half. And let me grab the select tool and put this over here. I want to right click that and duplicate it. And I'll make this blue. And I'll take this object and put it to the upper left like over here. Maybe like that. That's pretty good. And what we want to do now is grab the Bezier pen, which is right here, or you could just press B on the keyboard to get that. And we want to come up here to this toolbar at the top, and we want to make sure we have this button turned on that says Snap to Custom Nodes. We want that turned on. And with that on, I'm going to snap the cursor onto the corner of this object right here, and click, then hold Control and bring this line going straight up through here to somewhere within the boundaries of the blue object, and click. Then we can let go of Control, snap to this corner and click, and then back to the starting point. And once it highlights that node red, go ahead and click to put it back in its original position. Then we can take the select tool, hold shift, click on the red object, and go to path difference. And now we're going to go back to the Bezier pen, which is again over here, or you just press B on the keyboard to grab that. And I'm going to snap to this corner, click. I'm going to hold Control and bring this line straight up to about here, and then click. And now we can let go of Control. And I want to put this next node, this next point, right about here, just above where the red shape is, right about there, like that. And then back to the starting point, just like that. And we'll go to the select tool, hold shift, click on the red object, and go to path difference. And what we can do now is hold shift and click on the blue object and go to path union. So that's now one object. So what I want to do now is click on this again to get the rotation handles, and I'm going to hold Control and take this arrow on the side here and just move that up while holding Control. Move that up one step like that. And then we're going to take this and place it over our logo here, our graphic. And as you can see, it's a little too big. So I'm going to click on it again to get back to the scaling handles and hold Control and Shift to scale it down. Or in your case, you may have to scale it up, or maybe it's just fine. You could leave it as it is, but I'm just going to play with the size a little bit so it looks decent. And what I want to do now is I'm going to turn this white by clicking the white button, so you can start to get a sense of how this is going to look going through the object there. And what I want to do is, let's bring the opacity of that all the way up so we can get an even better idea. If you notice, we almost have the shape here, but we have one step left we have to do. If you notice here, there's a black border going on the inside right above where these white rings are. We don't have that on here yet. It kind of just stops abruptly. And I don't think that looks particularly good. So I want to add that border in there. So I'm going to take this white object and I'm going to right click that and go to duplicate. I'm going to make that red. I'm going to give that a red outline by holding shift and clicking on the color red. And I'll take the opacity of this and bring this down about in half. I'll go to the select tool, we're already there actually, and I'll lower that one step with the button that says lower selection one step so it goes beneath the white. And then we can go to path, stroke to path, path, break apart, path, union. And what I want to do now is let's click on our black logo right here and let's right click that and go to copy. And I want to go to the circles and ellipses tool and hold Control and Shift and click and drag to create a perfectly round circle like that. I want to get rid of the outline by holding Shift and clicking the X. Then I want to go to Edit, Paste Size, and then click Paste Size. And it's going to make that circle the same width and height that this black object is. And once we've done that, we can go to the Select tool, hold Shift, click on the black object, center it on the vertical and horizontal axis like that. Click off of it to deselect everything. And now I want to click on this red border right here and then hold Shift and click the red circle. And with them both selected, go to Path, Intersection. And then we can hold Shift, click on the black object and go to Path, Union. And now we could hold Shift, click on the white object and go to Path, Difference. And we now have our logo design set. We just have to add some text in there. But as it stands right now, you could edit this and make this different colors and it's pretty much all set. So to add some text in there, I'm going to put this off to the side. I'm going to grab the text tool, which is over here, or you could press F8 on the keyboard. Click on the canvas to get the blinking cursor. And I'm just going to use all caps. I'm just going to write for this tutorial, Inkscape. And I'm going to click on this over here to create more text because you're going to need two different words, one for each side. Inkscape and Designs. Excuse my typos. Go back to the Select tool. I'm going to click and drag over both of those. I'll make them the same shade of dark gray that this is. And I want to choose a particular font for this. The font I'm going to use is called League Gothic. If you'd like to use that yourself, I'll have a link to that in the description of the video. It's a free font to download, so go ahead and check it out. So I'll click on the text editor, which is up here. I'm going to look for my font, which is League Gothic. There it is. Oops, let me bring this over. Click Apply, close out, and I'm just going to hold Control and Shift and make these a little bigger until they fit nicely within there. Until they look like they'll fit nicely in there. We still have to change the orientation of them. That should be a pretty good size. So what I want to do now is I want to click on just one of these words. Click it again to get the rotation handles. Then hold Control and take the side arrow and bring it up one step, just like we did with the banner before we used it on the logo. Then we could take the word and it should fit right in there nicely like that. We'll do the same thing over here. Click on that, click on it again to get the click on it again to get the rotation handles. Hold Control, take the side arrow, bring it up one step and put it over here like that. And what we could do now is click and drag over all of it and group it together with the Group Selected Objects button. And our logo is pretty much done, but we have one last step. If you notice here, I applied sort of like a worn out texture, kind of like a vintage look to the design. And if you'd like to do this as well, I will have the image that I used for that texture linked in the description of the video. So go ahead and download that. So download it to some place where you can easily access it. To use that, I'm going to go to File, Import. I'm going to find the texture. I believe it's scratch.png. You're going to get this little dialog here. Just leave it as it is. Just leave the defaults. Click OK. And we have our texture. So what I want to do is take the opacity of the texture and bring that down a little bit so we can see what's going on beneath it. And I want to take this and you know what? I'm just going to hold Control and Shift and make the texture a little smaller. What the texture is going to do is it's going to take all of the black area. All of the black area of this texture image is going to become transparent. And all of the white area is going to be the part of the logo that shows through. So let me bring the opacity back down. Everywhere that's black on here is going to show through as transparent on this logo. So I don't want to take big splotchy black areas like that and place it over important parts of the logo like where the wording is. Otherwise we're not going to be able to read it. So I'm going to position this in a way that makes sense. We have some black going over the text, but it shouldn't be too much. Like that. That should be pretty good. And let me click and drag over all of it so we have everything selected. We should have both the logo and the texture selected. Bring the opacity all the way up to 100%, and then go to Object, Mask, Set. And there it is. That is our logo. And you could take this as it is. You could even go and change the colors with the texture applied. You could even go and change the text with the texture applied. We click on the text tool, click on the text, and you notice you could change the text. But I like the text, so I'm going to leave it as it is. And that's pretty much it. That's how you could create that logo design using Inkscape. So if you have any questions, let me know. And as always, thanks for watching.